Humbity diddledy hidely dido, humbity diddlum, diddledy dido, humbity diddledy hidely dido, humbity diddlum die. Where are we today, boys and girls?
Oh, sure. Dollar.
Where about, William?
Dollar.
In Dollar. And if we look down there, that's Dollar Main Street. And here we are just at the East Burnside.
Right.
So what we're going to do is, if we look up the hill here, the last time we were here, where did we visit?
Castle Gloom.
Castle Gloom. And see if we look right up there, you can just see Castle Gloom away up on the hill.
Also,
So what we're going to do is we followed the water the last time coming down off the hill, and this is where it comes to, the Burnside. So we're going to have a little look down here.
yeah.
Now, you were asking the last time, William, about the name Dollar, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the name Dollar could come from a number of places. In Gaelic, it means dark or gloomy. And that fits well with the name of the castle, Castle Gloom.
Although the name Castle Gloom is not very accurate, because what castle is the opposite of gloomy?
Well, it is quite the right name for it, because
It's
there's lots of different words that it could come from. So in Pictish, it could mean dol for field, or ar for arable or high. Now, the castle was built about 500 years ago, and the name gloom is said, or dollar, is meant to come from the Scots word for sadness, which was dolur. And if we have a wee look here, just have a wee look at all this. All these stones have come down from the hill and been washed all the way down here. Did you see a stickleback in there?
That's why I put my net in.
What did you see?
A stickleback.
Oh, let's have a look.
Although I didn't catch it. I just
Let's
got
have a look.
biggies.
Get your net in there. Let's see if we can catch anything. Well, we take a wee walk up along the Burnside and have a wee look at some of the buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Is there any famous buildings here?
There's quite a lot of famous buildings. Well, that's what we're actually going to have a look at today. You coming, Chloe? We can come back and have a look for stuff later. Now, we've talked quite a lot about the hill foots and how everything grew up around the mining and the brewing and all the other industry that was here. But Dollar was very different to that. Dollar had a very different time scale or time frame, because originally this part of Dollar, the main part of Dollar here on the right hand side, was what was here to service the castle, and everything over to the left hand side here that we just showed you, the main street, none of that came up until the 1800s, until Dollar Academy was built. And that's what Dollar's mainly known for now, is the Academy. But its history was very, very different previous to that. So what we've got on one side of the town is these sort of older 17th and 18th century buildings. And then on the other side, across here, is all the 19th century stuff since the Academy was built.
If there weren't any cars, you would think you're travelling in time.
You would, if there wasn't any cars here, you would think you were travelling in time. Now, I used to go here when I was a little boy to this church, to the Boys Brigade, which was like a little group to go and do marching and other stuff like that. Well, we go and just have a wee look in here. Well, we have a wee look at these buildings.
They look more spectacular.
They look really spectacular, don't
All
they?
this was used to service.
So, yeah, so this part, I don't know if the church was, but certainly the houses as we go further up, and this one over here were all part of the old town. And look at that there, isn't it beautiful?
We've plastered all the walls up.
And there we can see, that's just the background for the other church up the back here.
That looks really nice though, just that little window.
It does, eh?
Nice wee cottage.
It's a nice wee building, eh? Let's just have a wee look about. Now, the people who used to live here before, we talked about them the last time, were the Picts. And they built lots of forts all along the hill foots here. And we have found stuff here, or burial mounds or cairns up in the hills, that date back to 1500 BC. Can you believe that? I can't hear you over there. You have to stay closer to me.
I actually can't believe that.
What can't you believe?
The fact that all this is so old.
Yes, well, this is probably one of the oldest parts of the hill foots, I would say.
Wow.
Now, the tribe that lived here were the Métis. And there are still lots of places around here that have the Pict names. Did you know that?
No?
Okay, so one of them is just outside the Dollar, called Pit Gober, and there's another one called Pit Far. And when we look up here at the Ochils, we're at the east end of them. So this is a kind of tail end of it, and this is where the land starts to rise up to about the same height as the Ochils. But these Ochils go all the way from here out to the west, all the way along to Stirling. And along there, at Dumayet, at Menstrie, is where the Métis used to have their main fort. How cool is that? So, the name Dollar first appears in the records in 877 AD during the Battle of Dollar. And who do you think this battle was between? Do you not know? It was between the Danes. So they came and invaded. And Constantine II lost the battle here. But one of the Norse kings is said to have died here, right at Dollar.
If England wasn't enough.
And his name was Amlaib Connog. Now, when they first came here, this 877 was a very, very long time ago. And this area has seen a lot of battles over the years. So one of the next ones that we know about... Oh, wait a minute, let's have a look here. What do you think of this? How cool is that?
This is annoying.
You think so?
It's so loud.
It's very loud, isn't it?
And since about the end of the stream, it's so slow, this would be a prime spot for sticklebacks.
Yeah. Right, so let's go this way. Now, in 1336, there was another invasion. So just to the east of here is Fife. And that's where the 4th estuary comes in through Edinburgh and then up past this area. Now, what happened in 1366 was a bunch of English pirates came up and invaded Fife through the Forth. And they came so far up there, they eventually got to Dollar. Now, the Church of St. Columba was being rebuilt. And apparently the story goes that the pirates took all the materials from it. Can you believe that? No. But listen to this, all was not well for the pirates, because do you know what happened to them?
What?
Well, once they'd collected everything, they went to sail away. They were sailing, or said to have been sailing, past a place called Inchholm. And guess what happened to them?
Did they crash?
They sank, or it said that they sank within the twinkling of an eye. Can you believe that?
Why?
Why? Nobody knows why. But I think back then maybe people would have thought it was something like divine intervention because they'd done such a terrible, terrible deed. What do you think?
Or maybe it was other pirates, but they were Scottish.
Maybe other pirates sank them, aye, who knows,
Or
eh?
maybe it was just pure coincidence.
Or, well, exactly, it could have been anything, couldn't it? Now, we talked about how Dollar had a very different history. from the rest of the health foods. And the main reason for that was a gentleman named James Mcnabb. And there's still streets named after him. And what he did was, he was a local boy who made a fortune and left his money, or left a bequeath £65,000, which would be over 5 million these days, to build a school for the poor and the children of this area. But there's a very different side to this story, because James Mcnabb made his money from the slave trade. And all of the prosperity that came to dollar, or is still here in dollar, comes from that situation. So everything we're looking over here to the east was the original part of dollar. So we can see a lot of the old buildings here. And the rest of it over to the east here only became popular in the 18th century, after the academy was built. So what we're going to do is take another little walk up here and just have a wee look and see what we can see.
So lots of stuff was built by slave trade?
Well, no, it wasn't built by the slave trade, but it was built by the money from the slave trade. Yes, it's quite a frightening prospect. You know, when you live in a little place like this, you can often think that things like that don't affect you very much, but then you realise that everything around you was built by it, yeah.
Everything around you was built, it can be destroyed.
Yes, exactly. Right, let's just get up on the side here so we're not in the way, Chloe. Now just look at this water here. Isn't it stunning?
I can think how nice dollar is, but it has such a
Troubled history.
troubled and dirty history.
It certainly does, doesn't it? Now, there's another place near here that we really like, isn't there? That's up on the back roads. Can you remember what it is? No, that's going that way. We're talking about going up this way.
Alva?
Not Alva, no. It's a garden, a type of garden that we go to see.
Japanese garden?
The Japanese garden, William. Well done. So, the Japanese garden was built by a woman called Ella Christie, who, one way or another, had inherited her father's money from the coal mining operations in Iowa. And she dedicated her life to travelling the world and was an incredibly inspirational woman. And she went to a place called Japan, and many other places, Uzbekistan and many other places. And she brought home with her a Japanese gardener. And he had lost his family in an earthquake, I think, and then spent his last years here tending the gardens up at the back road of Dollar here. So we're going to just take a little walk up and have a look at some of the architecture here.
Whoa.
Because these are some of the buildings we were talking about. Alright, just wait here till this car comes. Now, if we just look up here, if we remember the last video, we went to somewhere called the Mill Green. And this little entrance just here is the entrance to the Mill Green. So I think once we went up the hill here, we might come back and go up there. What do you think? Yeah? Oh, wait a minute, here's a wee sign. Let's have a wee look at the sign.
We love signs.
We love signs, don't we?
Look about ye. Look about ye.
Look about ye. Right, William, would you like to read us the sign today?
Mill Green, taking its name from medieval mill. The Mill Green is now a public recreational space for which a path leads into Dollar Glen. The perfect place to discover more about Dollar's history, with a variety of exhibitions and a reading room with art knives and photographs. You would love that.
Yeah. No, let's have a look up here, because when we look at the map, we can get a good idea of where we are. So we've got along here at Demaya at Menstrie, and we come along to Alva, then along to Tillycootree, and then along to where we are at Dollar, and then up to Muckert. So shall we just go up the hill here and have a wee look?
I think we've been up the hill before.
Well, we've walked up here before, but we've never done a video before, have we?
It's really tough.
Now, there was lots of famous people that have come to Dollar in the past, and one of them was our national poet. Do you know who he is?
Robert Burns.
What's that, sorry?
Robert Burns.
Robert Burns, that's right. And he came here to visit a man that you've read about in the signs before, a man called Crawford Tate. And when he was here, he wrote a lovely little poem called The Banks of the Devon. Now, I think I've told you guys about this before, so we are hoping to maybe get that poem and read it to you at some point. Let's cross over here because the pavement's a bit iffy there. Now, the reason we're coming up here is I want to go and see a very particular house. Now, look at this up here. See this little white house at the end of the road?
Yeah?
Can you see just the side of it? Look at the, can you see the sort of building on the that goes up to the chimney? And it's like little ladders.
Yeah?
Yeah? So that is a really traditional Scottish style of doing things. So that's probably one of the oldest houses here, I would think.
The one that's like white and then...
Yeah, the one that's got white with the orange roof. So let's cross over now. This house here used to have a very special man that lived there. Did you know that?
No.
No.
Is it a relative of someone very important?
Well, yeah, I would say so, because his name was Billy Crawford, or Billy Craw, right? And you see this little bit, this little foyer bit at the front of the house?
Yeah?
When I grew up, and when many people grew up around here, he sat right there and said hello to everyone.
Nice.
That's nice, eh? And do you know our good friend Jeanette? She used to have to come and walk up this hill. She used to go and work up the top of this hill, right? And every day, or every week, she would come by and she would stop right here for a wee word with Billy Craw. And he would give her a cabbage or a cauliflower or some tatties, and she would bring him something that he could use as well.
Like a scone.
Like a scone or something, aye. How nice is that?
Really nice.
And look at the architecture as well. I mean, look at that wee pigeon up the top there on the chimney.
Oh, that's just perfect.
He looks very happy up there, doesn't he?
There's got no one to disturb him.
No one to disturb him. He's just sitting chilling out. Right, I think what we'll do is we'll take a wee walk back down to the mill green and just show everyone it from the other direction. What do you think?
Yeah, it looks really cool.
It looks really nice. And look at this house here. I mean, for the most ends of a house are not particularly interesting, but when I look at that one,
It looks very abstract.
it looks very abstract, and I just think of Scotland when I see things like that, don't you? Now, because of the school here, well, not just because of the school, but there's been lots and lots of famous people that's come from Dollar. Did you know that?
No.
And that's not just in modern times, but also in ancient times as well. So one of the people that I know of actually has the same name as one of our friends who lives here. Who do you think that could be? Who do we know that lives here? Who comes walking with us sometimes? Starts with a G.
Gregor.
Gregor, that's right. So Gregor's second name is Dewar. And there's even a street here called Dewar Street. And that's possibly named, or I think it probably is named after, a man named James Dewar. And what do you think he invented?
Dad, I got a jewel beetle.
Oh, you got a jewel beetle. Well, let's get a wee look at that. Let's see. Oh, he is gorgeous. Let's see him. Just
See?
hold that as still as you can.
It's the jewel beetle from Animal Crossing.
It's the jewel beetle from Animal Crossing. Look at that.
Well, it certainly looks like it.
That looks astounding.
He's trying to get out.
Right, shall we try and think about what Gregor's relative might have invented? What do we take with us everywhere in the winter when we're going on our walks? To have a hot drink in?
so you can put stuff in it and it won't lose its temperature because it's made out of ceramic.
That's right, and do you know what that's called?
Forgot.
A vacuum flask. So Gregor's relative from Dollar was the inventor of the...
Vacuum flask.
How cool is that?
Imagine how much money it made him.
I would presume it made him a lot of money. If you get a street named after you, I think it probably made you quite a lot of money, don't you think?
I've got an interesting question.
What?
What is the definition of being famous in the ancient era?
Oh, that is a good question. Well, I think the aristocracy were always quite famous. I think maybe it was quite difficult to be famous if you were poor. But there was plenty of people that it did happen to if you came up with a wonderful invention or something like the vacuum flask. What do you think?
It's something that all the people like to remember as a
Exactly. So yes, there's probably lots of streets here or and everywhere in Scotland or all over the world named after people like that. Now, he was not the only famous person to come here. Have you ever heard of a man called Haile Selassie?
No?
No. Do you know who he was?
Is he a professional footballer?
He wasn't a professional footballer, no. He was the longest independent ruler in Africa. When all the other countries had been taken over and ruled by colonisers, etc., he stayed in his power over his own kingdom. And his grandsons came to Dollar Academy. Can you believe that?
Well, mainly probably because it was one of the most prestigious schools.
And he is one of the most famous leaders in, well, certainly in modern world history in my time. Now, there was also another very famous man. Now, I love this guy. His name was J.W.M. Turner. Do you know who he was?
Did he write a book or something?
He didn't write a book. You're very, very close, though. He painted pictures.
Oh.
And he was one of England's most famous painters. And in fact, one of my favourite painters of all time. There was a film a few years ago with Timothy Spall. And, I just absolutely loved it. Now, I don't think he did any proper paintings here, but he is known to have done some sketches of the Glen, which is pretty fantastic.
Do they have it framed in a museum?
They might well do. We've not been to the Dollar Museum yet, because it's only open at the weekend, so what we need to do is get down there this Saturday, I think. What do you think?
Yeah.
Now, in the modern era, there are some other famous people. Now, you guys might not remember that. In fact, you will remember this. Do you remember we heard one of the songs in the car by a band called the Bay City Rollers?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really cheesy Scottish music from the 70s. It's not remembered particularly well, but it did take over the world for a very short period of time.
What?
It was like the #1 pop band in the world.
That's not possible.
It was possible. I'll tell you all about it. Now, one of the men that was in that band was a guy named Alan Longmuir. And he actually ran a pub in Dollar called the Dollar Arms that me and my friends are all very, very familiar with.
Did you go there drinking all day?
I might have had a pint in there 1 or 2 times, yes. Right, here we go. Chloe, can you come and help us read this sign? This will tell us all about the mill green.
Whoa, I think you'll like that.
So who's going to read this first part for me? Chloe, you going to read from here?
The meal mill, which gave the mill green its name, had its origins in medieval times. The drawing by J.C. Nates shows how the mill looked in the 1800s. There was 2 water wheels and 2 water troughs which brought water from a dam on the Dollar Burn in Dollar Glen. But by the 1830s the mill was derelict. The site was excavated by Dollar Academy pupils in 1979 to 80, and the foundations can still be seen from the upper part of the glen.
Oh wow. So where did you read to here, Chloe? So the mill green was part of the Kirklands of Dollar, which belonged to the Duke of Argyll. That's the man who owned the castle. Now, Gibson's Reminiscences tells us how in the 1790s William McLeish, the last miller at the mill, walked to Inveraray to petition the Duke to allow a piece of land near the mill to be used as a public bleaching green. Do you know how far away Inveraray is?
Is it very far away?
It's very far away. It's right up the north of Scotland. That was a long way to walk. He was successful And Dollar folk have had the use of the mill green ever since. How cool is that?
I've got a question.
William, do you want to read from up here, please?
In the middle of the 19th century, the mill green became Dollar's summer playground. The view of its setting beside Dollar Glen, Castle Campbell drew visitors from far and wide, especially after the opening of the railway in 1869. As late as the 1950s, Sunday schools often travelled to Dollar to picnic.
Oh, wow! So this was a popular place for everyone to come.
And run races on the mill green. Today it is still much used by families, youth groups and dog walkers. Now something very famous. Princess Anne visited the mill green in 1979 after the award-winning Silver Jubilee facelift project. The mill green was the mill green in 1979 after the award-winning Silver Jubilee facelift project planted silver birches and other trees. 2004, George Reid, presiding officer of the Scottish Parliament, officially reopened the path, which were improved as a Millennium Project. Both visits are commemorated by plaques on a boulder near the entrance to the glen.
Oh, wow.
Following the facelift project, the mill green gradually became overgrown with brambles, gorse and self-seeded trees on the slopes and along the burn. Consequently, the area available for recreation and access to the burn were much reduced. In 2012, the Local Landscape Partnership committed a clearance program with the aim of returning the mill green to its earlier state. Ongoing volunteer works will ensure the area
Dad, I caught a sawfly.
that way so
Just
that future generations can continue to enjoy the mill green.
Right, let's see this sawfly you've just caught, Chloe.
Look in there.
I'm looking.
Look.
I'm looking.
See it?
Sort of. Let me just zoom in. There he is there. Look at that guy.
It's a sawfly.
You need to stop moving. Can't you see him when you keep moving? There we go. Look at him. Right, so we just take a little walk up, have a wee look at the mill green, and then we'll say cheerio. What do you think? Bye-bye, sawfly.
This is a really nice walking place.
Well, you can see why everyone used to come here from far and wide for their Sunday school trips, can't you?
Nice grass.
Nice grass, you've got the running water, surrounded by all the trees and the
Paths,
nature.
so you know where you're going?
Yeah, you've got the paths as well. And if you really wanted, you can do the path that we did last week and go all the way up to Castle Gloom, can't you?
You must have been on school trips a few times.
I would expect. Well, we saw people on a school trip last week, didn't we?
Yeah.
Look at it. Oh, look there. I can just see the castle there. Let's see if we can zoom in on Castle Gloom.
That is amazing. It's just poking out from the tree.
It's just poking right out to the side of the tree there.
Sure isn't every day you get to see it.
No. Well, we've seen it the last 2 weeks though, haven't we?
It's been amazing seeing Castle Gloom.
I know, I really enjoyed it as well. Shall we go down here onto the water and just have a wee look at the burn?
Yeah.
Come on then. I think your sister's away catching sticklebacks.
I won't blame her.
I wouldn't blame her either. Now, oh, in fact, there was one last famous person, William, I've not told you about yet.
Yeesh.
And it was someone that I knew. So there was a band when I was young that we all really liked, and they were called James, funnily enough. And two of the guys that were in the band lived in the little cottage right up beside Castle Gloom. Can you believe that?
It's crazy.
And these guys were not just in a band, they were like one of the top bands when I was little. And we used to go and see them at festivals and gigs, and it was amazing to actually know some people. Oh, look at this. So look, I think some kids have been up building little dams here. Look at this.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Look, there's one up further up here. Let's go and check it out.
It must have looked full of water.
And look at this. Can you imagine how much water has to come down here to throw these big tree trunks down?
It's beautiful.
Stunning, eh?
Because of erosion.
Well, let's go and check this little dam out. I like the look of this.
Yeah. Oh.
Check it out.
Are there any beavers in Dollar? Are they
Beavers, well, there's beavers not far from here, but I think this is just a little bit too rocky for them, maybe.
Oh, goodness me. You have to balance.
Yeah, you need balance to get over here. And somebody's built this really, really, really well. So it's pretty easy just to jump right across.
Oh. Oh. Oh, there.
Did you make it?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to fall in.
No.
No,
I think it a bit wet though.
that's all right. We all get a bit wet sometimes.
It was hard.
It was, eh?
But I think it's all the scrap.
I know, it's beautiful, isn't it?
I don't think you get a lawnmower over there.
Aye, they need a wee lawnmower at the side there, I think. Spectacular, laddie. Right, well, we say goodbye now.
Very far away.
Say goodbye.
Bye.